Hi, welcome back to the Biblical Preaching Podcast, and I'm joined by Mike, as always.
Hello, yeah, good to be here.
And we've got a niche subject today, which, might not get much traction or anything, but it does matter to probably quite a lot of people in certain settings, and that is preaching through a translator. And we've both done it, and we've both got experience with it. I've done it lots of times, actually, in different settings and different languages, and all because I can't.
Yes, which is the point, isn't it?
Yeah, because I'm not able to speak those languages. Have worked with a translator. And I remember one time, just to get us going, I'd been in America studying and really developing, I think, as a preacher and getting lots of experience, but I hadn't preached through a translator for probably 3 years, 4 years, something like that. And then I spoke at the OM New Recruits Conference.
Okay.
And that first time I spoke with a translator, I felt totally thrown off. And I'd done it before. Like, I'd preached before and I'd preached with a translator before, but it had been several years and my preaching had improved, and suddenly I was being interrupted,
Yes.
and yeah, it was a weird feeling. And the people were, positive and grateful and that was great, but I just felt lost. I felt like all of my toolbox was taken away. My timing, figures of speech, humor, like everything was gone, and it was just bland sentences that I was speaking and waiting for them to be translated. And it was a horrible experience. But then I kind of got back into the rhythm, and I haven't really struggled with it as much. It's never the same as being without, but it's so much better than being without when people can't understand you. So it's a two-sided thing, isn't it?
Yeah, that's exactly the point, isn't it? That it's needed where it's needed. That's less profound out loud than it sounds in my head. But like, yeah, where you're preaching in your language or whatever language, and there's people there that need to hear what you're saying. The reality is that they need help, and the gift is a translator.
Absolutely. And it's an incredibly hard job.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, you probably see that with your wife after she translates. She's probably more tired than if she was speaking herself.
For sure, yeah.
It's a tiring, brain-draining kind of exercise. And so, yeah, absolutely, hats off to everyone who translates. Just incredible. Not having said that, that's a given, right? So totally grateful for every translator, no matter how great or how much they struggle, right? It's a wonderful thing. But it's good to recognize that there are differences between translators, right? And so often when I'm speaking through a translator, if it's a one-time message, I don't really know what their style is, and it's hard to ask them.
Yeah.
And so you sort of have to feel your way in the first few minutes. And it could be the translator, it could be the language, it could be the environment, the event that you're speaking at, but there is a massive difference between them, right? So you can have a translator who kind of watches you, you finish your sentence, they then say the sentence in a very sort of deliberate, steady way, almost like a computer. And no matter what you do with your energy, they say their thing in the standard voice. And that's,
It's like just very literal, your words, my words, your words, my words.
Yeah, but almost sort of...
But flatter.
Flatter, yeah. And that's that's great. That's wonderful. Other opposite extreme, you can have a translator that's matching your energy and almost speaking over the top of you, and people can follow them. And that's stunning. Yeah, it's very rare. I've known of 2 or 3 like that, but literally like mind-blowingly good.
Wow.
And wonderful when you have that, but you don't know if you have that until you have it. Once you have it, oh, hang on a minute, I've got more time here.
Yes.
And then there's some languages that can say the same as you've said in the same amount of time. Some need longer. Their sentences and obviously I have no idea what's going on in those sentences. Maybe it's a totally different message. But certain languages just need more words, because English, I think, is quite a precise language. It's not necessarily a beautiful language, but it's fairly precise. And so we can describe things with single words that sometimes other languages need sentences. Mm-hmm. And so there can be a challenge there. So all of that to say, unless you're working with the same translator over multiple messages, your first couple of minutes, you're kind of learning how this works. With this particular translator, what's the dynamic? How's this going? And then adjusting accordingly.
One of the issues linked to that, particularly that comes to my mind, is timing. Like with the first sort of type of translator you were saying, you basically got half the time.
Yeah.
But
Or even less.
potentially less if it's if it's a longer translation. But essentially, half the time. But then the other extreme, you've got a full time.
Almost, yeah.
And so that's hard in terms of prep and delivery. That's hard, but that's just the reality of having a translator. It's sort of being aware of that beforehand, but also kind of during.
Yeah.
Saying, okay, this feel, and then you're always thinking, okay, where can I speed up? Where do I need to slow down? What can I cut? What can I where can I go with this?
Yeah.
But that's a hard thing to do on the fly, but that's just
It is.
sort of how it goes.
And I think there's actually quite a lot that you need to do in the preparation. So as you're preparing the message, there's the obvious, I've got less time.
Yeah.
But there's other things too, such as I can't use cultural references without explanation. I can't use figures of speech. This person may be very fluent in English, doesn't mean that they're fluent in my English. And so they may have learned English from an American or an Australian or a South African. They may have learned English from someone from their own country who's very good at English. And so the kind of daily colloquialisms that we can use and get away with in our own culture probably don't translate.
Like accents and idioms and everything in between, really.
Yeah, and humor
Yeah.
very rarely translates well. So you've got all that to kind of take into account, not in the moment that you're preaching it, although sometimes you'll catch yourself, say something and think, oh, that was very English.
Okay.
Let me phrase that a different way. So sometimes you're fixing it as you go, but if you're trying to fix the whole thing as you go, that's just lack of preparation, isn't it? So there's all the kind of message prep. You want to keep it simple as possible. You don't want to be jumping around the Bible because the translator may not have the verse in memory like you have it in English. Different languages may have different sort of memory verses, and so sometimes we can just go, all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God, and we can just chuck out verses without a reference, and the translators, scrambling in their Bible trying to find it. Why not just stay in your passage, make it easy on them, so you can tell them ahead of time, I'm preaching these verses here, right? And actually, that's another thought. I have found that it's worth checking with them. If you've got 1 minute before you preach and you're introduced and you shake hands, you can't. But if you've got time before, say, okay, here's my passage. Could you just look at the two Bibles because you speak both languages and just check? And I've had more than one occasion where they say, oh, actually, verse 12 in our language is totally different.
Oh, wow.
And then I'm like, okay,
how
different? And it's better to know that ahead of time than to discover that mid-sermon as you're preaching, and then the translator's sort of whispering, it doesn't say that in ours. And then they're frantically scrambling. So it may be that you can hear that and say, okay, let me adjust what I say in light of that, or let me clarify what I'm going to say so that you know what's coming.
Yeah, and it might just be something like you see plurals a lot clearer in almost every other language than you do in, like, as in you.
Yeah.
And sometimes that can come out in different different languages of translations. But yeah, just that checking, and even just if it just kind of being with the translator, because it's a relational thing. It's a heart thing. So it's, like you say, it's not just a robot. If we wanted robotic translation, just get everyone with like an AI in their ear, or just speaking to an AI and let it repeat. But actually, it's a person, and so if you can spend time with the translator, just asking about who they are a little, just having a bit of a connection, I think, can sometimes help that too.
You're right, the relational dynamic between preacher and translator can be incredibly warm and connected, and even sort of not humorous, but you can be enjoying each other, or you can be very stiff, almost giving off a vibe of being annoyed that they keep interrupting you. And it's not fair for them. It just adds pressure, but it's also not loving. Your listeners are watching and grateful for the translator. And sometimes you may have a translator that's struggling and sweating and they're really finding it hard, but your encouragement, your appreciation, your gratitude, all of that can sort of help the experience be better for them. Doesn't have to be awkward.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So what have you done? You must have done multiple different language settings.
Yeah. I think most recently in Spanish, but I kind of mixed it up a bit. But yeah, so I guess languages I've had translation have been the two that come to mind quickest would be Lithuanian and Slovene, and in Slovenia and Lithuania. And most of the time they were both sort of clause by, or not clause by clause, like sentences by sentence. It wasn't over the top. It wasn't simultaneous in that sense. It was sort of bit by bit. That's not the technical way, but bit by bit.
Yeah. And you do need to find a length, don't you? Because if you give a full, long Pauline type, Apostle Paul sentence, your translator can look at you like, give me a chance.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's the key. I'm fairly conscious of using shorter sentences when I preach anyway, but particularly when there's a translator, or even if there's a translator in the room, because sometimes you're aware that people are translating sort of whispering next to each other, and that can change a little bit. Okay, you might not do everything that we've been saying, but you might be a bit more aware of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that sort of shorter sentences, or very short paragraphs potentially, and I think even I found that you can vary the length of how much you give. So I think like one of the first times I did it, it was almost like everything I said was like 10 or 12 words, and it was just very sort of 10 word, very even paced, which was just a little bit boring. And I'm sure that the translator was probably happy, but then I think just varying, again, not going for 300 word bits before translation, but just actually, if someone's translating it, it's because they can speak both languages to a decent degree, and so actually you can vary the length to a point. But
also, you don't want to go so short, because I've seen this happen where you kind of go partial sentence, and their language doesn't work that way, and they're waiting for you to finish the sentence.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it can't just be clause by clause unless it's a
because some languages will put the verb at the end or whatever, and if you've only given them a clause or a phrase, they're scrambling.
Yeah,
he's going to say something about.
Yes,
and they're then guessing.
Let's just wait for that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So give complete thoughts, but not hyper-extended run-on sentences.
Yeah, but you've had translation for non-European languages.
Yes, I've had triple translation.
Oh man,
that was nuts.
Okay.
So I spoke, then it was translated into the local language, and then there was time subsequently given for it to then be translated into, I think it was Russian.
Wow.
For those that didn't know the local language. So it was 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and I think 3 was translating 2, so it was terrifying.
Oh wow!
I have no idea what was happening, but that was really slow, and it's like, okay, I've got to get to my point.
Yeah,
I can't. It's just brutal for everyone to build up towards something. It's like, no, just say it.
Yeah,
just get it done.
But when you've got your big idea, or the passage's big idea, and your big idea, that becomes an extra gift.
Yeah.
Okay, right. I'm just we're just stripping everything. We're just kind of going for that. But yeah, that's impressive.
There is. Well, it was impressive of them. It was.
Yeah.
I didn't know what was going on. But there's an added dimension that maybe this isn't even important, but sometimes you're translated into a language and you've got a sense of what they're saying.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're translated into Spanish, you know what they're saying. If I'm translated into Italian, I know what they're saying.
Right.
But my Italian isn't quite good enough that I want to preach in it. I have in the past, but I don't
But not now.
I don't want to put the effort in now to try to resurrect it. So if I'm preaching and it's translated into Italian, I know what that person's saying. So I'm listening to them in a very different way than if I'm being translated into Korean, where I've got no idea what's being said. So if it's into Korean or whatever, I can be thinking my next thought. If it's into Italian, my next thought comes off the back of what they've said.
Okay.
And if what they've said wasn't what I said, then I might want to re-say what I said and give them another chance. And actually one time I remember trying a couple of times and it wasn't working and then giving her the word in Italian. But we had a good rapport,
right.
and everyone cracked up, and it was, everyone was happy and loved it, and she laughed, and, but you wouldn't want to do that if you didn't have a connection with the person. Sure. But yeah, most people, when you're translated, haven't got that added complexity. I do think it's good, like you said, think about the message ahead of time. I think even as you're running through it, I've run through messages before I preach through translation with pauses, even though I haven't got the translator present.
Yeah, good.
Because I need to get into that rhythm of giving a thought and then giving another thought. And then and it's very weird to do, but it's trying to find that sense of rhythm and pacing and so on, and connect with the translator ahead of time, have conversation as much as possible, gives them a chance to understand your English, and to kind of figure out how you speak as well, and it gives you a chance to get a sense of, is this an energetic, is this a bouncy person, or is this a very clever, cerebral, quiet, meticulous translator? And that both are great, so it's not that you're evaluating, it's just getting a sense, just like they're getting a sense of you and how you speak. What else can you do? You can give them an outline. Give them something to look at, to know where you are, because otherwise they're sort of floundering sentence by sentence, not really know what's going on. Whereas if they can look at a piece of paper and know we're here and we're going on to this.
As detailed as you can, I would think.
If you're going to stick to it.
Well, and then do it, but yeah.
Yeah. Anything else? I would try to express gratitude publicly. Mm-hmm. Obviously, you do it in private as well.
Yeah.
But actually, I say obviously, sometimes you can come up to, say at a conference, you can come up to the stage after an introduction and be translated, and at the end you've left the stage, they're still translating for someone else, or they've left and gone somewhere else. You might not see them again. And that always feels like a shame. So I would try to express gratitude in some form during. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, all of these things, so we're kind of particularly thinking for the ones that are sort of standing next to you.
Yeah.
But I think all of that is really helpful, really valid if the translation is done in a booth, in the court, or in a different room potentially. But in the room, people have headsets on, and that's a tremendous gift. Preaching with the flow is obviously easier because you're not sort of waiting for that person, but still being aware that someone is translating, and it's like I say, it's hard work. I think all of those preparation things and all of the gratitude points are still really valid, even if the person isn't stood next to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. So I think a bottom line is that being translated not simultaneously, but interruptively, whatever the term is, back and forth, it is hard. It's hard for them too. It's hard for the listeners. And so, we want to apply grace to it, and we want to be grateful for the privilege. Like Mike, you said earlier, I think before we started recording, what a privilege to be asked to speak.
Yeah.
You're asked to speak in a place where they may probably have their own speakers, but they're choosing to tolerate translation to hear from you. That's a real privilege. And we just want to say to all the translators, you know who you are, we appreciate you, and we're grateful for what you've done and what you do. And I know to be a translator is far more tiring than to be a preacher. Far harder work. So, just to finish, little glimpse, we've all read it many times, I'm sure, but Revelation 5, I don't know how translation's going to work in heaven. We like to come up with these ideas of we're all going to know everything, but I think we're going to be learning, and maybe learning languages is going to be part of it. So maybe translators have still got a job when we get to heaven, but what a joy. Just like when you're at a big conference and people from all over the world are gathered together worshiping Jesus, it's such a special thing, isn't it? Because the body of Christ is not all English speaking like me. Thankfully, it's such diversity, and there's a beauty to that. So when in Revelation 5, you hear the song that is being sung to Christ, worthy are you to take the scroll and to open its seals, for you were slain, and by your blood you ransomed people for God from every tribe and language and people and nation, and you have made them a kingdom and priests to our God, and they shall reign on the earth. That every tribe and language and people and nation, that is so the church, isn't it? And we get little glimpses of that, but one day we're going to see that full force, and it's going to absolutely blow our minds, although we'll be looking at Jesus because he's the reason for the whole thing. So praise the Lord for translators. Let's enjoy every opportunity to be together internationally, and then one day we will really all be together. It's coming, that day. What a day.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, thanks, Peter, and thank you for being with us.
Thanks for joining us today. We really appreciate every positive review, like, share, and comment. And thank you for praying for us. We hope you will join us again next time on the Biblical Preaching Podcast.